Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a slightly overdue episode of Dunswell Zoo. The reason for that is I've been very ill. And, of course, we've had the Grasslands Pack and the 1.12 update, which we didn't know how they were going to affect the game. As it turns out, this time I don't believe they have affected the game. As for the illness, I am mostly over it now. Just a little bit of a claggy, I guess is the right word, a bit of a claggy throat. Either way, let's get stuck in. So as you can see here, the first part of this build was the outline, and I started this a very long time ago, and I just knew that that's where I wanted the monorail station. And from there, I went ahead and put in the monorail station. I ended up going for a straight monorail station that's parallel to the path, rather than an angled one, just because it's going to be easy to build for, and it actually didn't look that good on an angle. So I've gone for a straight one. And you can see here, I initially had curved paths. I was a bit tired of building in boxes and building rectangles and straight things, so, excuse me, I wanted to do some curves, some corners. Unfortunately, as it turns out, that was very difficult to do. We have some curved pieces in the game, but not enough. If you ask me, we need some more curved pieces. And I also didn't like the fact that the entrance and the exit were on the front. It works for the Red Panda Plaza, it doesn't really work for this. I wanted it to be kind of like a temple sort of build. So I changed it to squares again. And I did want to keep the natural path, but I wasn't a fan of the curb, and you can't turn the curbs off on raised paths. So I ended up covering the path with painted temple stone, as you can see in the image. And then I decided to move the exit to the other side of the station, just to help with traffic flow, and it does make it look a little bit nicer. And more or less the same design on the exit side, it's just a slightly longer ramp. It doesn't go up and down as much, it's just a straight run down. And then I decided to fill this area in. We've got a plaza started, we've got Frank for some scaling, and just what will turn into a planted bed, just in that sort of, I don't know what to call it really, that weird shape. And there you go, there's mud in, and I've put the first part of the roof on. I went for a pointed thatched roof. It's not something I've used before, so always a good time to learn to use some of the pieces that have been in the game for a few years now. Put the supports in, a little bit of detailing, and again you can see I've put some support beams in made of bamboo along the entire inside of the monorail station as well. And that's just the back view of the same thing. And then around the front, I've connected the exit path up to the plaza, put in the sign, the Pantanal platform, and these weird little coloured bamboo sticks. I've seen them at a zoo in America, not in person, I've seen photos of them online, of a Pantanal area in a zoo. And they've got a very similar sort of colour scheme, but theirs includes blues and reds and blacks and stuff as well, whereas this is just browns and greens. I've sort of stuck to those earthly tones. Put the planting in, of course. Kept it tropical, stuff that could be grown in the UK realistically, except maybe that lobster claw, but oh well, we'll brush over that. And I've also put some trims on the top of the ramp walls, just to give it a little bit of a finishing touch. I do like how it looks, and I've kept it red. I sort of like the contrast at the moment between the red, the grey, and the sort of whitey, creamy stone. Put some wooden trim up on the top there for the guests. On the back, same with a trim. And I've just put a tree and some rubble in that little cutout there to make it look like there used to be something there, but has since sort of crumbled and nature has reclaimed it. Then I added a staff room on the back, and I've put a roof garden on it. We've planted it up with a bamboo wall so the guests can't see on the roof garden. That's the view the guests get. There's a wall and some bamboo, that's all they see. And then I fenced off an area next to the plaza for staff facilities, keeper huts, staff rooms, trade centre, stuff like that. And I've left 2 cutouts for planters that will be going in there. The planters are actually a bit smaller than that. Then over near the Andean bears, I've done this little, looks a bit like a music note, doesn't it? I've done this little music note path, sort of patio area. There's just 5 benches and a couple of bins there. It's just somewhere nice to sit and eat, and that gets planted up and it looks really nice. Those are the 2 of the planters that I was talking about earlier on. They're smaller than those squares, and they get trees, but nothing to block the sign. That was important to me. The sign couldn't be blocked. And there's that planting I was talking about. So I've planted round the little patio and put some curbing in as well. Then I added a food court, same blueprint that I've been using throughout the rest of the South America zone. We just added an extra shop in this one, which is just a memento. Just because it's near the monorail station, I thought guests getting off the monorail would want to maybe get a couple of gifts. Similarly, guests getting onto the monorail might want to get their gifts here and then stay on the monorail till it goes back to the entrance. And we get some benches outside of there as well. You can see from this wider shot here, I've put a tree and some plants in there and some planting next to that little food court. Put some curbing in for the exit path onto the plaza. Overhead view of the food court and the little secret patio, the music note. You can see this is sort of the area where it's situated in. So we have the Colombian white-faced capuchin, the bird's tapir, and you can see kind of just at the top there's a conservation station going to go there. It doesn't end up going there, it ends up going a little bit further back just because of the size of the footprint. But we will get onto that in the live section. And there's that conservation station. So it was going to go there, but that's now opened out into a path, and the conservation station goes a little bit further back along that path. So the staff facilities then. We have the quarantine, the vets, the staff room, the trade centre, and the keeper hut. And then I've done some planting in the other planter, put some benches and bins in, and done an entrance sign. I may change that entrance sign at some point. It looks fine for now. It just doesn't particularly look very South American at the moment. And that's the building process of this. It took 2 days in total, considering I had to change the design multiple times. So this took 2 days to build, and then the conservation station, which you'll be seeing in the live section in just a few seconds. That took probably the best part of a week. It went through lots of different iterations and designs until I finally settled on the sort of curved, oval-ish shape, I guess I would say it is, or a rectangle with curved corners. I did want hexagons, but the floor just looked terrible with hexagons, so I had to knock that one on the head. Either way, thank you so far, and we will now go into the live section. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the live section of this episode. Not a clue what I said in the voiceover for the sort of snapshot-y, speed buildy thing, but I'm sure it was talking about how ill I've been. So I've got the game on pause at the moment, just because there are a lot of notifications popping up. I can see our marsh deer herd expanding quite nicely now with some infants, but it's not what we're here for today. We're here for this down here, and some things have changed even from the snapshot-y speed build thing. I don't even know what to call it. It's just screenshots taken at certain intervals of the build. But we of course have the path here that leads to the Andean bears. And then just behind there we have this little tucked away seating area where you can just sit and eat your food and just have a rest, enjoy, kill some time if you're waiting for one of the guided tours or one of the animal talks. Just stuff like that. And we then of course move round to another little food court area. So we've got different shops here. We've got Missy Good, I think this one is. And we've got Pip Short. Pip Short Juice, I think it is. Monsieur Frites. And just a memento. And there's also toilets at the end. And there's some seating just out front here. It's a very small little area. You know, we've got a food court just around the corner that's much bigger and has a restaurant as well. That being Inca Eats, which I've realised that you can't actually see from here because the planting's so dense. There you go. That's your first view of Inca Eats. So you got the restaurant, and then I think there's only 2 shops here, so I may put another one in here, another food shop. We'll see what the demand is when we open the zoo. And then of course we have the Pantanal, if I can speak, the Pantanal platform itself. So it's got this nice open plaza, very little planting. You can see quite distinctly that this is the monorail station. Lovely little planted bed here. There's Frank, what helps us with our scaling. How's it going, Frank? So we've got a little staff only zone here, which links through to this little work zone. And then we go under the tunnel around the back, and there's a staff room here. This is all planted, just because we don't want people on the monorail seeing a blank space. And they get a little snapshot of behind the scenes. Nothing interesting around here really, just some planting, some benches, a bin, just a nice area to sit and relax while you're waiting for the monorail. That you haven't seen before, we'll get onto that later. But you would go up the slope, and up the slope, and up the slope, and then arrive at the monorail station, where you would of course board your little car and go out into either the Atlantic Forest or the Asian Zone. I've not decided what it's going to go into yet. So the Atlantic Forest is a continuation of the South America section, and of course the Asia Zone is something else entirely. When you are exiting the monorail station, because it won't let me jump across the tracks, and you can just see if I drop down here. Oh, that was a bad idea. It's not gonna let me do that. It's not gonna let me do that either. But it's all planted back there, and it looks really nice. And then to exit, it has its own dedicated exit route, which you've seen if you saw the earlier part of the episode. So you would disembark, and you're brought to here, and then of course you just go down the ramps. For now, I'm keeping the sort of stone capping as red. I'm not settled on a colour, but I think it looks quite nice in red. Let me know what you think. But I quite like the contrast between the red and the sort of creamy, grey colour of the temple stone. Then there will be a habitat here for the bird's tapir and the capuchin. Quite a big habitat. It probably won't be this big in reality. That's just the footprint I'm working with. And then something what you haven't seen before, because I didn't think I would get it finished for this episode, but one of the pros of being ill is you get a lot of time. So you come down this path here and you arrive at the conservation station. So it does utilise one of the blueprints from the conservation pack, which is this arch thing here. So this one and this one. I've put the benches in, and then this building at the back is completely custom. It's not finished yet, but basically you've got a exhibit education thing. This one's got the yellow anaconda in. I wasn't too bothered about it being a high conservation animal because we have got reptiles at risk, so that's where they'll be going. Initially I did want one of the animal talks in here so that you could attend a talk and the educator would get the animal out. It doesn't work for the anaconda, unfortunately. And I definitely wanted a snake in here. So we have gone for a yellow anaconda. And she, I believe she is, yes, Hermina, will live out her life in here. Just get rid of all these notifications. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. And then at the other side we have these information desks. We've got two at that side, one here, and I might see if I can finagle one in the bend there. So we have 4 information desks, and I'm going to set it so that each one sells a different thing. That way they all get used. And then in this area here, I'm thinking of doing one of the guided tours. So this will be a pick up and drop off point for the guided tours. So you would start and finish here and then go out around the Pantanal. And that's essentially the major part of this episode done. It was just about building the monorail station and doing a nice area to have guests walk around in. However, if I just nip out, so you can see, excuse me, you can see we've got this area here, which has a 1 in it. And there's another 2 areas elsewhere that also have numbers in it. We've got a 2 here, and 3 is actually all the way over here. So 3 is definitely the most interesting shape. You know, it starts relatively close to the zoo entrance. We've got all this. And the reason why there's these 3 spaces, so 3, 2, and 1, is because I want to put the armadillo in. So if we go to the 9-banded armadillo, it's least concern, so we don't necessarily need to breed them. 1 male, 1 female, so really small sort of habitat is needed, really. So 2 adults is 198 meters squared, and that's more or less all they need. I mean, let's have a look. How many juveniles can they have? Up to 4. So 230 would be the absolute maximum. So it covers the Pantanal basin, but it also covers the Atlantic forest, and it covers the pampas pastures as well. So it could go in either of the zones. My concern with putting it in the Atlantic forest is the majority of the animals in the Atlantic forest at the moment are quite small. We've got the poodoo, the tamarins, not the tamarins, sorry. Yeah, tamarins. Yeah, golden lion tamarin, golden-headed lion tamarin, and a tamandua. They're the Atlantic forest. Another small animal in the Atlantic forest I feel would come across a bit like let's shove all the small animals together. So I'm not sure where to put it. So I've put one here. Not that it's the first choice by any stretch of the imagination, but it's next to the conservation station and the Pantanal platform. So you're going to get a lot of foot traffic through here. So there'll be lots of people seeing the armadillos. And it's a decent sized habitat. I mean, if we just stick a gate on it. The hell happened there? We just stick a gate on it. And so it's 612. So it's definitely more than enough. So that's 612. My only concern with it being there is there's too much going on in this area. You know, this is all quite built up. We want to have a habitat here. I'd rather just have this as some sort of blank space. Maybe put some vending machines and some benches in, something like that. Because of course you would then have the pampas deer over here. The white-faced capuchin and the bird's tapir here. Habitat probably won't be that big. The ocelot here. Habitat definitely won't be that big. This is reptiles at risk. This is the jaguar complex. It probably will be that big. And then we have the giant otter, which probably will be that big again as well. So my concern about putting it here is it's just a bit busy. There's too much going on here. So then option number 2 is where the conservation station was going to go, but the footprint wasn't big enough. So it's opposite the food court and the restaurant. It's next to the howler monkeys. It's behind the flamingos. Let's find out if it is actually a viable option. 364. Yeah, it is a viable option. Only just, but it is a viable option. I'd quite like this area for the viewing for the armadillo. Not so much this though. And then of course option number 3 is right at the start. It's probably the biggest footprint we're working with, but that's not a problem because I think actually it'd look really nice. And we're dealing with 836, so definitely more than enough room. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Should we put it here? So right at the start of the pampas pastures. So you have Trachoma peccary on the right, armadillo on the left, and then you have greater rhea on the right, guanaco on the left, and do it that way. So should we put it there? Which I do quite like the shape of that habitat, to be fair. Or do we put it here, where we're pushing it for space a little bit, but it is big enough for the armadillos. I like the idea of coming along this path to view the armadillos, but then that would leave this side exposed, and I don't want to put a massive fence up because it's going to look stupid, so maybe not that option. And then this option over here, decent size, get enough people viewing it to make it a profitable habitat. The monorail goes through it, and it's just a bit busy up here is my issue. So I'd like to know what you think. Option 1, option 2, or option 3, or shall we put it in the Atlantic forest, which is probably going to be in here. They're all quite small animals in the Atlantic forest, so it's not going to take up an awful lot of room. So let me know what you think about that. The narrative of this series is going to be coming back in. It was meant to be this episode, but because I've been ill, I didn't manage to get the story elements created in time for when I wanted to put this episode out. I initially wanted this to be put out before the Grasslands pack. Obviously that hasn't happened. So I'd like this to be out before Christmas now, which I think I should be able to achieve because today's the 19th. So yeah, essentially that's where we're at. So the next episode will be the story elements sort of coming back in, which will drive how we go about continuing the zoo. There are a couple of changes here and there. I'll just show you them quickly. We've got some of the new... I've got one of the new signs up here. There's another one. Where's the other one? The maned wolves, yes. There's another two, here. So we've got the maned wolf signs. You will notice the male anteater is missing from the habitat. The female juvenile grew up, so I have put the male and the female back together. And she is indeed pregnant, due in 62. So we can actually move the male back now. In with the coatis. The maned wolves, we haven't got them in yet. I couldn't find any with good ratings or genetics. And if we take a look at the space they require, so 2 adults, and they can have up to 5 pups. So 2015. And I've given them 4,148. So they've got double. I guess that's an okay habitat size, to be fair. It's double their minimum requirements. It's just the viewing opportunities aren't great for the maned wolf from here, really. I mean, obviously, in real life, it'd be alright, I reckon. But the way the game works, the guests don't ever really get to see the maned wolves unless they're up here. This is a bit of an issue as well. This drop off, sort of, like you can't see the edge of this lake because of the drop off, but that's how I wanted the habitat to be designed, so we'll work with it. If need be, we can remodel. The mountain tapir, the juvenile grew up and we released him or her, I can't remember, to the wild, and she's actually having another one, which is great news for the species. Bush dogs, they've just had pups. You can see a tiny little bush dog, and a not so tiny little bush dog poo. Where's it gone? Tiny little bush dog and a massive poo. Bush dogs just had pups. The rhea, most of them have now matured, so never again will I have 7 female rhea pregnant at the same time, because that was just a nightmare. So we might reduce the numbers a little bit. Guanaco, we're nearly there with the herd size now. I've smoothed this off a little bit so you get a bit better view to the back of the habitat. And they do come right to the front, so not too fussed about that. And then yeah, Trico and peccaries, we've had one die of old age, so we are looking for a replacement. But otherwise they are all doing fine. You can see we've got little hoglets already again, so great news for the species. Potentially armadillo. Let me know what you guys think. I'd really like your input on this one, because I don't think I can decide on my own. What else? Flamingos, we're starting to fill up the numbers here. So the way I'm doing it is, once a pair have a chick, I then put contraception on that pair, and that chick can grow up and have a chick of its own. And then obviously, like when Faustina grows up, she can have a chick, and then once she's had a chick, contraception will be applied to her. And that's how we'll maintain the flocks of flamingos. The ibis aren't breeding, the southern screamers aren't breeding, and the ibis aren't breeding, the southern screamers aren't breeding, and the spoonbills aren't breeding either, because they're all fine with conservation numbers. We may do some tweaks to this habitat in the near future. Nothing really uses this area, so I might fence this off and have another bird in here. Maybe the southern screamers, or do they have a water requirement? They don't have a water requirement, so they could go in there. The ibis don't have a water requirement, so they could go in there, but I don't want them to. Needs less rock, apparently, but also needs less rock. It's fine for flamingos, though, that's what matters. And there's some updates in the Australia section, so we'll just nip over there. Bonsai, g'day mate. Somebody commented on one of my videos about how I should never attempt a Australian accent ever again, because nobody can ever get it right. And I understand completely where they're coming from, but I am going to continue to do an Australian accent. G'day mate, Bonsai Keith. We're here at Dunswell Zoo. G'day mate, welcome to Dunswell Zoo. We need to go to the Australia zone, so it's up this ramp and down this ramp. Australia. So I've put some of the new grasses in, and the kangaroos and the emus really love these grasses. Like, as soon as you put them down, they run over and they just investigate it. It's just really cool to watch. So we've got 4 female emu and our usual group of kangaroo. See, I've put some grasses in here. I really just want to deter the emus from coming too close. I mean, realistically, the kangaroos would also be able to jump over this fence as well, but in the game they can't. But we are going for realism here, as much as Planet Zoo will allow anyway. So yeah, I've gone to town a bit with the grasses. That needs to be lowered down. Just a smidgen. It's the same with this. And the same with this. And then there's some new decorations around the back. So I've put some planting in here. Got an emu and a kangaroo. There is a kangaroo sign in the outback pack. If I do this here, the red kangaroo, as I understand it, the prop packs are now axy. It's just a matter of getting them released. So we'll see how long that takes. But touch wood, everything's stable for now. I must still have some props somewhere in the zoo, because I've tried loading the zoo without the safari and the Outback prop packs, and the game won't load, so there must still be some that I've missed, but I can't find them for the life of me, so they'll just stay for now. But yeah, I just thought we'd put some planting in, make this a little bit more vibrant and lived in. Got our dingoes down here, they've had pups, it's all going really well. And then in preparation for the next couple of, I've put some supports in and just tried to mask it a little bit so it doesn't look as ugly, just a metal pole in the middle of a path. So I've put one of the fir tree trunks around it. In preparation for the next episode, we've fenced this off because we are going to be working on the platypus. That'll probably be the new year, that episode. I mean, we might get another one out before the year's over, but I think it's unlikely, just given how busy it's going to be. So we'll see anyway. Either way, I have talked for too long. Thank you very much for watching. I will take you back over to the Pantanal area. I mean, you'd think it's quite big, and you wouldn't necessarily be mistaken. It is actually quite big. But we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 habitats left in South America, and then that's that done. Australia, we've got, well, Australia and New Zealand, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 habitats. And then we've got Asia and Africa to fit in to what's left. I think that's definitely more than doable. Asia and Africa are the two biggest zones what I've got in the zoo. So that's why I've left them two till last. So obviously Africa's going to have to start quite compact because we're a bit walled in at either side. But it does spread out eventually. Asia, on the other hand, we can definitely stylize things a bit more. See, I've got a winding path here. We'll put some bamboo in and screen some things off, and it's going to look all right, hopefully. And then it joins up to South America, and we have the Red Panda Plaza, and then that carries on to the South America Pantanal platform, and then it's either going to come into the Atlantic forest or it's going to go back out into Asia. It will loop back round as well because we have the monorail in the other direction. So I think what I'm going to do is probably bring it up to here and then across, and then this will be the Africa zone back here. Still lots to do, but I'm definitely up for the challenge, and I am very much looking forward to what the future holds for the series. Either way, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It really helps me out and helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a lovely Christmas or a happy Hanukkah or whatever you're celebrating or not celebrating in this month. And I shall speak to you all soon, whether that's before the new year or not. Who will be able to tell? Either way, thank you very much for watching, Please remember to give me your feedback on which area you would like to see the armadillo in, Site 1, Site 2, Site 3, or the Atlantic Forest. Until then, my friends, stay safe, stay kind, and bye-bye for now.